The automotive industry is having a bit of an identity crisis because it seems as though consumers and to a degree automakers don't exactly know what they want. From the EV embrace of 2021 to the abandonment or at the least scaling back of EVs in 2023 to the embrace of hybrids in 2024, but truthfully, nothing screams this more than the extreme shift away from affordable cars and the pivot to expensive XL SUVs. It's no secret that cars have gotten bigger and bigger and more expensive. The average truck today is about 1,900 pounds heavier than the average truck of the 90s, and the average truck is much more expensive than the trucks of years past. But don't be fooled, this isn't just a truck issue, it is a car issue as well. From sedans to SUVs to trucks, most vehicles on the road today are bigger than the exact same make and model vehicle of 30 years ago. And this doesn't account for the newer variants of vehicles that have been introduced over the past decade, like XL variants like the Ford Expedition Max, Lincoln Navigator L, Yukon XL, and so much more. And don't even get me started on the lifts and modifications that can be done to these cars to make an already large car even bigger. But size isn't the only issue here. Cost and supply is as well. Cars are becoming more and more expensive, and it feels as though the days of the everyday basic car with basic features, those days are all but dead. And once the Mitsubishi Mirage dies later this year and reportedly the Nissan Versa next year, well, at that point moving forward, there will be no more cars that you can purchase brand new for $20K or below. And you know, this has been creating massive problems for consumers for quite a while now. But it looks as though some automakers are beginning to see some of the red flags that may be occurring due to these changes that we've seen in the auto market. And the truth is, it's about time that they've seen these red flags because this entire thing is partially their fault. Because again, the issue is multifaceted, and there are a lot of problems with the current state of the car market. For example, as I mentioned earlier, price. Due to automakers leaning into larger, higher trim cars, the cost to buy a car is higher than ever. Car prices are going up, and sure, this is in part due to the supply and demand and market volatility we see post-pandemic, but another huge factor is that the simple car no longer exists. And because cars have gotten more complex with more features, cars even at their base model level are pricey. And the amount of money that you spend for even normal everyday cars is astronomical. I've talked about it a lot in my videos, but I remember growing up where seeing a $100,000 car on the road was a rare and special sight because it didn't happen often. But today, whether you're going to the grocery store, picking up your kids from school, or just simply running errands or driving on the road, there is a very high likelihood that you are seeing these expensive cars because even normal, really not eye-catchy cars are close to 100 grand. Cars are nicer than ever, and this is driving up the prices. Bottom line, another issue that nobody, especially automakers, seem to talk about are the safety issues that come along with these trucks and XL SUVs that automakers are absolutely leaning into. For example, XL SUVs and lifted trucks are more dangerous than regular sedan cars. In a study done just this summer, bicyclists are 291% more likely to die if hit by a truck compared to a sedan. In fact, I used to be an avid cyclist, and I actually stopped riding completely because I personally knew of far too many people that had been hit by cars, and I became too scared to ride my bike on the road, so I simply gave the sport up. Anybody who is a cyclist or knows a cyclist knows how big of a problem this is. And while getting hit by a car is obviously always a risk when it comes to cycling, it becomes much more deadly with these larger SUVs due to the sheer size of the car as well as the lack of visibility. And a different study found that trucks and SUVs are 45% deadlier to pedestrians than normal cars due to the restricted visibility. So these XL SUVs are not only less affordable, they're less practical, but they are also more dangerous as well. And automakers have been leaning into these cars left and right. And you know, the thing is, if you're looking at this from the surface or from the outside looking in, it may be easy to blame the high cost of cars, XL trucks and SUVs, and even to an extent pedestrian accidents, on the fact that car culture in America is out of hand. Americans are to an extent known for the fact that we love our cars, we love to spend money on our cars, and we love our XL massive SUVs. In fact, this is along the lines of what Ford CEO Jim Farley thinks himself, because last month at an event, he stated, and I quote, "We have to start to get back in love with smaller vehicles. It's super important for our society and for EV adoption. We are just so in love with these monster vehicles, and I love them too, but it's a major issue with weight." Jim Farley is the CEO of Ford, the same company who sells SUVs, trucks, and Mustangs to retail customers. The same company who used to have a diverse portfolio of sedans, including the Focus, Fiesta, and Fusion. and the same company who discontinued all of their sedans and regular cars back between 2018 and 2021. I have nothing against the Ford CEO, Jim Farley, but this has to be one of the more out-of-touch things that I've heard anybody say recently. Because how are we supposed to fall back in love with the smaller vehicle when small vehicles are getting discontinued left and right, and when your brand specifically doesn't even sell them? As I mentioned, Ford doesn't have a single small vehicle in their lineup. Their smallest car is the Mustang, and that doesn't fit the bill of what we're talking about here. Dodge has none. Jeep has none. Chevy has one, which is the Chevy Malibu. Out of Nissan's 17 vehicle lineup, 4 are cars. Toyota actually has a few, including the Prius, Corolla, Camry, and more. In fact, across the entire automotive market, from Toyota and Honda, Lexus and Mercedes, or Ferrari and Lamborghini, there are about 60 different models of cars available for sale, but Ford doesn't offer a single one of them. And yet, Ford thinks that we need to be the ones to fall in love with smaller cars. And, I agree. I think from a practicality and affordability standpoint, small cars are the way to go. But Jim Farley telling us that we need to fall back in love with small cars feels like an alcoholic telling us not to drink, or a chain smoker telling us that we shouldn't smoke. A huge reason why we as drivers and consumers are in the situation that we're in is because automakers have taken away the variety of cars that once made cars accessible, affordable, and practical. And now, well, if you want to buy a Ford, even though Ford CEO Jim Farley thinks that you should be falling in love with smaller cars and considering those as a vehicle purchase, you don't have any options in that category from Ford. And so if you want a sedan and you want to buy a Ford, the only option that you really have is the Edge, which is smaller compared to their other vehicle lineups, but it certainly isn't a sedan, nor would I consider it a small car. And so this begs an important and I think really interesting question. Are automakers starting to backpedal or pivot from their decision of focusing on higher trim, expensive, and larger SUVs? And while I don't know the answer to that question, I can tell you that the data says that they should. I made a video last month talking about how sales of some of the cheapest cars in the market today are doing extremely well. The Ford Maverick, which is Ford's entry-level truck, has seen strong month-to-month sales growth. The Chevy Trax, which is one of the cheapest new cars you can buy on the market today, has seen double and in some cases triple-digit percentage growth month over month for a very long time. In fact, the growth of compact or small cars is outpacing the growth of the overall car market. While overall vehicle sales were up about 2% nationwide in the first half of 2024, subcompact and crossover vehicles grew by more than 20%. And during the same period of time, full-size pickup trucks were actually down by 4%. And so all of this does make you wonder, are automakers going to start offering some cheaper, smaller cars again? Well, only time will tell. Like always, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, comments, if you have anything to add, I would love to hear it, so make sure to leave a comment down below. And while you guys are at it, make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.